just one last thing to ask you about, Brian, before we wrap up today. News that I think maybe a lot of people would have missed over the course of the Christmas or just before the Christmas was that the IRFU have a new CEO in Kevin Potts. It was announced on December 22nd. He took over on January the 1st. And I guess this is a sense of next man up. It's an inside the IRFU appointment. It's a very safe appointment. Is it one that could have been a little bit more ambitious, Brian?
Yeah, I think it could have been. I'll caveat that by saying I know Kevin Potts relatively well. Not relatively well. I know him. I like him. I think he's a good guy. He's obviously been chief operating officer for 4 or 5 years now. He's seen what goes on under the bonnet in the IRFU. I guess the only thing is that I knew the other external candidate, and I was very excited when I was in conversation with him a few months ago when he was being suggested as a potential replacement for Philip Brown. Sometimes you need eyes from the outside coming in to not revolutionise but evolve a setup. And it does feel as though when you promote from within, you know, you can't see, you don't bring any external factors in with you and see where there might be some need for change. It was a pretty unenviable time for him to come in and take over after the letter from the women's team, from those 60 players, past and present. So yeah, I did note that Kevin Potts was pretty quiet over that couple of week period. I know he was only interim at that time, but it does feel, just because I know that other candidate, it really would have been a bold play, and I think he could have really kind of made for great change. Vast experience with venture capital. I saw Philip Brown did an article, pre-Christmas with the Sunday Times business section about how maybe it is time to take on venture capital. Well, you want people that are most experienced with that, and I know Kevin Potts had some dealings with CVC up to this point in with that URC and Six Nations deal, but just when you know the individual that was the alternative and you rate them as highly as I do, I guess you can't help but feel a little bit frustrated that bigger change might have been the next level of progression into where rugby needs to go.
Can you tell us what change are the IRFU missing out on by not appointing the external candidate?
Well, I think if you look at the way the setup is, that the power of the CEO in the IRFU, I don't feel as though has the same level of power in most organisations. It's still very committee driven. It's still, Philip Brown talked about how at times in that article, how at times it's very difficult to have decisions, sometimes difficult to get decisions across the line because of that process. So structurally, you wonder, would someone coming in and changing things up have been a positive for the overall business structure and how decisions could be made? But the reality is as well, and this mightn't be lovely to hear, but a lot of the makeup of the committees is from people doing 20-year service with their clubs and then getting elevated to their provincial setup and then to the national setup. It's very hard for all of those individuals that have put the graft in. If someone new came in and changed those structures, they wouldn't be, and a lot of these are on our voluntary basis, but they're not going to be getting their, potential trips away or, some of the upsides to that involvement. So I understand why they mightn't want to, shake the boat. Shake the boat, the right term? No?
Rock the boat. Rattle a few cages.
Thank you. Rattle a few cages.
Either works.
One or both of those. So because it obviously isn't kind of beneficial from their perspective. I get that too, but it does feel as though it's not dealt with on my understanding of the union is not dealt with on a business as per other businesses are function and how they're seen from a profit and loss making perspective.
Well, it's human nature, isn't it, to kind of look after your own position? Like, how much, like, is this a missed opportunity, I guess, from the IRFU to not? But I'm about to say rattle their own cage here a little bit. But like, what organisation does take that decision voluntarily?
Well, I think there was a big decision down in Australia a few years ago to change the organisation makeup, and obviously, they've hit some tough times with rugby down there, and the success of it. You think about back to the 90s and how good that Australian team was. It kind of has flattered to deceive since the World Cup in 2003, even though they got to the World Cup final in 2015 under Michael Cheika. But I do feel as though it's a possible missed opportunity, because when, like I said, when you employ from within, and Kevin Potts is he with the IRFU for the guts of 15 years? I'm not sure exactly how long he's been there, but it's very hard to feel a freshness in your environment when you do employ from within. And you think about now how often executive CEOs jump from one firm to another, but are able to bring new concept, freshness, new thoughts and ideas, and just an understanding of how someone did something successfully in another way and bring it into your environment. When you employ from within, I guess you don't get any of that.